The winter sunlight slid across the curved tile roof of Baek So-yeon's hanok like warm tea down a porcelain cup. Inside the courtyard, line after line of earthen ongi jars basked in the hushed glow, their shoulders dusted with yesterday's snow. To anyone passing through Irwol village, the scene looked timeless. Old timber, crisp air scented with pine and gochugaru, and the soft hum of a kimchi master at work. So-yeon moved between the jars with practiced grace, loosening linen covers, checking brine levels, coaxing young kimchi toward its tangy destiny. Her cat, Gochu, threaded around her ankles, occasionally pausing to swat at drifting motes of red pepper. And then, krk-krk-ksh. The sound, faint yet unmistakable, drifted from the far corner of the Jangdokdae platform. Static, like a radio not quite tuned. She straightened, palms reddened from the cold, and cocked her head. Nothing in that corner except one of the older ongi, her late grandmother's jar, thick-walled and dark as river mud. Probably the neighbour's transistor again, she muttered, smoothing hair that never quite stayed in its pin. Still, she made a note on her clipboard. S4.7 cabbage batch Nutmere 11, possible leak. That night, after shutters were latched and rice wine warmed, she sat near the ondel-heated floor crocheting a potholder. Outside, the village slept under a quilt of hush, until the static returned. This time it bled right through the paper doors, a tiny haunted murmur. Gochu's ears went flat. So-yeon padded out in house slippers, lantern bobbing. Snow squeaked underfoot, cold biting her cheeks. She leaned over the grandmother jar. The static was louder here, pulsing like cicadas in July, yet clipped, mechanical. When her palm rested on the lid, she felt vibration. "A jar that sings," she whispered. "Halmeoni, what did you hide in here?" The following morning she took a detour on her walk to visit Moon Yoon-hee, proprietor of Chrysanthemum Tea House and unofficial repository of village gossip. Yoon-hee, cardigan slipping off one shoulder, was polishing brass teacups while a tiny ham radio set sputtered behind her till shelves. She'd once spent a lonely summer learning Morse code for fun. In a place as small as Irwol, unusual hobbies clung to people like pockets. So-yeon lowered her voice. "Do radios ever hide in kimchi jars?" Yoon-hee's eyebrows formed a perfect tilde. "Only if the cabbage needs company." She explained the static, the vibrations. Instead of laughing, Yoon-hee clicked off her radio. "Bring me a recording. If something's broadcasting, I can sniff it." That evening, they crouched beside the grandmother jar, So-yeon with a phone set to record, Yoon-hee holding a small metal whip antenna. The static emerged right on schedule, a rasping snowfall of sound. More curious, every 30 seconds, a sharper burst punctuated the hiss. Tick, 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 tick. "Morse," Yoon-hee whispered. "4 dits, letter H," then a pause. She closed her eyes, counting silently as the bursts repeated in varying clusters. Back inside, they fed the captured audio into a decoding app. The screen filled with dots and dashes, then letters, then a string of numbers. KJB 1021, MNI 113, SEB 1217. KJB, MNI. Yoon-hee rubbed her temples. Could be anything. So-yeon brewed ginger tea, thinking of her one indulgence since her husband's passing, reading stock tips in the Seoul Daily's business section, purely academic, a safe thrill. Companies were often abbreviated there. She fetched yesterday's paper, flipped through pages until her finger stopped. Look. KJ Biopharm had announced a secret patent filing on the 21st. Shares jumped 8% by afternoon. M New Industries slid after a scandal on the 3rd. SE Bionics surged on the 17th with rumours of a takeover. The arrows matched the price direction. Yoon Hee's spoon clinked against the cup. So we have a jar broadcasting insider stock tips. Who's supposed to receive them? Someone who knows where to listen. Outside, wind rattled bamboo screens, while the two friends designed a plan. Cozy mysteries, So-yeon decided, happened elsewhere, in novels by British ladies with neat buns. Yet here she was, kneading kimchi by day, and eavesdropping on espionage by night. Irwol village, though picturesque, wasn't remote. Seoul's glass towers loomed a subway ride away. Over recent years, young professionals had begun renting Hanok retreats for the weekend, chasing nostalgia with Wi-Fi. Among them were this month's guests. 1. Han Sung-ik, a retired engineering professor who strung peculiar wires above his tiled eaves to study atmospheric charge. 2. Choi Min-jun, a hedge fund analyst rumored to pick stocks better than anyone under 40. 3. Park Ji-yoon, real estate agent who convinced half of Gangnam to buy vacation Hanok here, phone glued to her ear even during Temple Bell curfew. Each, So-yeon mused, had the knowledge, motive, or opportunity to hide a transmitter in a jar. And each had easy view of her courtyard, where grandmother's ongi sat prominently like a regal auntie. The next coded broadcast arrived 3 nights later. TGP 19? After Yoon Hee decrypted it, they ran to the newspaper database. Tonggap Petrochemicals was due to announce quarterly results on the 29th, still 4 days away. Whoever is sending this is playing the market before news hits, Yoon Hee said. Classic insider trade. Can't we go to the police? And tell Officer Bong a jar is predicting oil futures. He can barely set his ringtone. She chewed her lip. No, we need evidence tying the signal to a person. So-yeon examined the jar by daylight. Nothing unusual, just pungent napa leaves brining peacefully. But on the stone platform, she noticed faint scratches, semicircles only visible when sunlight grazed them. Someone had moved the jar, twisting it perhaps to align with... what? An antenna. That afternoon she delivered radish kimchi to Professor Han as a neighbourly gift. His courtyard resembled a science fair, copper coils, battery packs, and a weathered shortwave receiver humming Wagner's overture. He accepted the kimchi with gratitude and promptly began lecturing on Schumann resonance and the way clay could focus low-frequency waves. His passion seemed genuine, yet she spotted a brokerage app open on his tablet, charts dancing green. Next, she stopped by Park Ji-yoon's Hanok to drop leaflets for the upcoming Kimjang festival. The agent, dressed in pea-green wool, barely looked up while juggling 2 phone calls about closing windows and entry points. On her veranda sat 3 decorative ongi filled, she claimed, with ornamental gravel. Clients love authenticity, she winked. Gravel or not, the lids were wired with thin metal loops tucked under ribbons, possibly antennas thin enough to miss a casual glance. Finally, under pretense of delivering sesame oil, she visited Choi Min-jun. He greeted her politely, eyes tired from 20-hour chart marathons. An entire wall of his study displayed monitors tracking global markets. Yet the man looked genuinely surprised when she offered fresh kimchi, as though culinary kindness were an alien asset. That night, another broadcast crackled, not from grandmother's jar, but from the jar nearest her back gate, one that held soy sauce fermented crabs. Startled, So-yeon realized the culprit must be shifting transmitters between jars to evade discovery. Yoon Hee arrived wearing a parka and resolve. I brought my cousin. Sergeant Bong, rotund and red-eared, trudged behind her carrying a thermos of yuzu tea. I hear you have an illegal radio, he said, trying for stern but landing on curious. "It's inside my dinner," So-yeon answered. He took notes, but confusion fogged his features. "Unless you catch someone in the act, it's hard to prove. Could be kids pranking you." He promised to patrol more often, then followed the scent of dumplings back toward the tea house. Deflated, the friends brainstormed by the brazier. "If the transmitter is being moved," Yoon-hee mused, "maybe we can make your jars less attractive." So-yeon's eyes lit. "Salt water is a conductor. What if we mess with the conductivity?" They hatched a tiny, spicy plot. Layer the rims of target jars with tinfoil, turning them into Faraday sleeves that would foil, quite literally, outgoing waves. Meanwhile, So-yeon would place a decoy jar near the fence, brine replaced with plain rice hulls. Hidden in the hulls sat a baby monitor, rigged to stream continuously to Yoon-hee's laptop. If anyone tampered with the jar, they'd have video. 2 nights later, the plan bore fruit. More precisely, bore footprints. Snow had fallen at dusk. At midnight, the baby monitor pinged. On screen, a hooded figure eased the decoy lid aside, slipped in a palm-sized device, and twisted the jar to face southwest. The person's gloved hand bore a ring with a distinctive jade stone shaped like a teardrop. Next morning, So-yeon and Yoon-hee replayed the recording thrice. "I've only seen a ring like that on Park Ji-yoon," So-yeon said quietly. They took the evidence to Sergeant Bong, who scratched his head. "A realtor, broadcasting stock tips? I'll need more." "Then come tonight," So-yeon insisted. "The jar will speak again." As evening purpled, they assembled in her kitchen. So-yeon, Yoon-hee, Sergeant Bong, and, to everyone's surprise, Choi Min-jun, who had shown up holding a bottle of plum wine as thanks for the sesame oil. He looked amused by the spy movie atmosphere, but joined willingly. The static began at 9 on the dot. Bong's eyes widened as dits and dars skittered across Yoon-hee's laptop in real time. SMB 024. By 15%, so it's not a prank, Bong admitted. Choi leaned closer. SMB? Seongmi Bio? They're scheduled to announce FDA approval next month, if that's true. He whistled. Someone stands to make billions. They waited until the broadcast ended, then crept into the moonlit courtyard. Snow reflected pearl light across the rooftops. Sergeant Bong produced a flashlight. Its beam found fresh footprints leading from So-yeon's back gate toward Park Ji-yoon's guest house. Bong set off, others following at a respectful crime drama distance. Park's Hanok windows glowed, silhouettes flitting inside. At the gate, Bong motioned them to stay back, rapped twice, and entered. Moments later, his voice rang out. "Stop! Police!" Silence, then a crash like pottery shattering. The group rushed in to find Park attempting to stuff bubble-wrapped electronics into her designer backpack while kicking shards of ongi across the floor. A transmitter, wires still dangling with bits of napa leaf, lay exposed. The jade ring glittered on her gloved hand. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted. "I was just—" "Insider trading," Choi supplied dryly. Park's shoulders sagged. "My brother works at the regulatory office. He fed me early announcements. I needed a low-power way to share signals with his investment pool without email traces. Ongi clay amplifies ELF waves. The salt brine grounds them. Perfect, simple, undetectable." She looked almost proud. "And utterly illegal," Bong said, cuffing her. "You have the right to remain silent, though I doubt you'll use it." Later, as investigators catalogued evidence, Professor Han wandered over in pajamas, misconceptions dispelled. "I thought my solar flares were acting up. Seems I was eavesdropping on larceny all along." Choi Min-jun thanked So-yeon for saving him from what could have been an SEC nightmare. He'd been considering joining the secret channel, but found it rather uncozy. The next week, Irwol village bustled with the annual Kimjang festival. Townsfolk in quilted jackets chopped cabbage in rhythmic unison, while temple drums kept time. Though gossip about the radio that lived in Kimchi fluttered around like sparrows, the mood remained gentle. After all, nothing could sour a village that knew the value of brine. On competition day, judges in hanbok sampled offerings. When they tasted So-yeon's winter batch, crisp, garlicky, faintly sweet, they exchanged delighted glances and wrote her name at the top of their scrolls. Reporter drones from Seoul circled overhead for color footage. During the award ceremony, So-yeon hoisted the lacquered plaque, cheeks pinker than the radish slices in her kimchi. Yoonhee cheered loudest, tearing up. Go-chu, wearing a tiny bell collar, meowed imperiously from the stage steps. After photographs, So-yeon slipped away to the quiet corner where grandmother's jar had once crackled with illicit whispers. She placed a new batch inside, this time flawless, transmitter-free cabbage, and patted the lid. "Halmione," she murmured. "Our jar won't be gossiping with Wall Street anymore. It can go back to doing what it does best, feeding people." The winter sun dipped behind pine-clad hills, scattering apricot light over tiled rooftops. In the stillness, no static rose, only the distant laughter of neighbors and the comforting reassurance of things fermenting exactly as they should.